Hello, fellow... Yes?
Do you want to make a game with me?
Do I? And that's how it happened. In this video, I'll talk about the basic concept behind our game and what work I've done on it so far as the artist. I will not be talking about the programming. I'm leaving that magic to the wizard herself, my great friend Hachi.
Hi!
As I said, she approached me with the idea to make a game. She is an artist herself, but wanted my help mainly to keep accountable and actually finish a project fully. But we both have ADHD, so now I'm passing the baton on to you guys. Hold me accountable. As I was saying though, she wanted to make a pet game specifically. Something where you have a little guy you can pet and feed. Simple, cute, good first project and starting point. And so I started right away. I came up with this guy, inspired by melon carving. Now, since you already saw the title and thumbnail, you must be thinking, that doesn't look very medieval fantasy to me. And you'd be right, I didn't have that idea yet. This melon dude ended up being the cracked egg to our omelette, aka he's discarded and left behind. I don't mind that at all though, and I'm sharing him with you all because that cracked egg, that first concept, is a part of the process too. And if it wasn't for him, it wouldn't be for anything else either. And he served his purpose for testing and learning. I made a couple animations, Hachi got to test them out, we learned a lot. Now, onto the game we are actually making. The idea right now is that it's a living book, an old dusty bestiary, but the creatures inside are alive and moving. The idea came to me very suddenly, just popped into my brain, that it would be so fun to be inspired by medieval art. Stuff around the 14th century. You've probably seen the funny looking crocodiles and rhinos, the knights fighting snails and rabbits playing trumpets. Such a genuinely wonderful mixture of serious and skillful depiction of animals and joyous silliness. The amount of character in these pieces, they're just dripping with raw inspiration and I'm so ready to bring it out. Absolutely delicious art. To be slightly more specific, my aim isn't to copy the art style, designs, or monsters one-to-one, so there won't be a griffin or a manticore in the game. I'm going for something that's clearly inspired by it and has the same vibes, but not a copy. Simultaneously, I'm naturally still inspired by monster collection games such as Pokemon. There is a reason these designs are so successful. They're interesting and there's just enough detail, not too much, not too little. There's a lot of lessons I took from Pokemon and people designing Fakemon, and what makes a Fakemon feel right. I highly recommend Subjective's series in case you haven't already seen it. Extremely insightful and fun. Back to the point though. I figured a place to start would be to doodle some dragon-inspired creatures. Most of these I kinda knew instantly that they weren't it, but this one had that something I was looking for. It just clicked. It worked. I showed it to Hachi and she responded with skeptical optimism, which I entirely agreed with. The next step was seeing if that was just a fluke. Could I replicate that feeling, that vibe? Could I even design more creatures that clicked, like this little old noodle thing does? Well, I did a lot more research and soaked in that inspiration, and analyzed why the design worked and what similarities to medieval artwork it shared. And one thing that is almost always there, these creatures are almost always chimeric, having the traits or parts of multiple animals mashed together into one. I also studied some artists that have that similar vibe to me, and I decided to use a much more textured brush. This is just a modified charcoal brush, and I relied on hatching to add even more texture and make things feel a bit more hand-drawn. And, well, I don't want to seem like I'm glazing myself too much or anything, but yeah, I succeeded. These work. They're not a copy of any specific design or monster I saw, but they follow the same conventions. The textured brush works wonders, and the mixture of more believable animalistic designs alongside the more abstract ones works. There's a small amount of mystery in there, I think. A few of these allude to the idea of an evolution mechanic as well, though you'll have to wait for a future video about that. When I showed these to Hachi, she was sold instantly, and we enthusiastically planned where to go from here to make this happen. So, where do we go then? We agreed it would be a good idea to figure out the UI and background. If I have that, I will have an easier time designing and animating the creatures that go on top of it. And well, in the top right corner there, I presented her with the idea of integrating the UI and buttons seamlessly in by making the game window appear like a page from a book. Many books from that era have this thick decorated border, and both of these already have a circular design in there. I could picture so easily those being the buttons. She loved the idea and gave me tons of useful feedback, and I got right to drawing more concepts. One thing we discussed is how to deal with sizing. If I make an illustrated border all around the window, that makes it awkward to resize, and we really wanted you to be able to have the window whatever size you want, just in the corner of your monitor, you know? Just have a little friendo there hanging out. Anyway, full credit to Hachi, she had the great idea to put something in the corner to cover up the pattern crossing over, and my brain just instantly went, old fancy beautiful corner protectors! So I drew a few different designs of those first. After that, I went on to doodle up some button concepts, and with them, some ideas for what the color palette could look like. I went for that slightly desaturated, washed out look, with the yellow still very prominent. A lot of things tend to yellow with time, including stuff like the varnish on top of paintings. So that's why a lot of them appear a lot more yellow to us now than what they would have looked like when they were painted originally. But I quite like that look and that vibe that old items have, so I'm going for it anyway. As a little side note, by the way, I have actually worked on a small game project as a part of my uni work, and designing UI and menus and buttons was like the bane of my existence, I swear. But this? It's fun to draw the boring parts. Everything about this concept is so self-indulgent and so fun. I'm so happy that I get to make something like this. Thank you, Hachi, and you guys for watching me and, frankly, enabling me. Anyway, next I threw together this quick mock-up with the buttons inside the border, the corner protectors on, and the monster inside the book. I filled the spaces without buttons with bits of mostly random filigree. Hachi had the idea that it would be really nice if you got to drag the buttons into whatever spaces you prefer to have a customizable UI, so you could make it more vertical or more horizontal. It's all up to you. But also, this is quite likely not going to be in the first prototype version just yet, but it's still good to be prepared and make sure the assets I make work with that idea. And so, assets I made. Each element is drawn separately and gets put together later. There's also a lot of copying and mirroring, which as a little bonus saves space and should make the game run smoothly when it's done. The buttons are potentially going to change, or I'll add new ones in the future as needed. For now, I decided to go for the cornucopia to feed our creature, brush to clean them, moon and stars to put them to sleep, and a quill and inkwell to access the options menu. I also considered a spyglass for that, but I decided against it. I honestly felt like it kind of ages it differently. Like, I have a specific era of time associated with spyglasses, and I wanted to make sure to keep things as vague as possible to let our imagination fill the gaps, or to not conflict with anything I want to add later. So yeah, that is the basic UI elements all finished, and some creature concepts done. Next, I will focus more on the creatures themselves, and probably start animating. I'll be sure to document it again in an art log like this. So, as always, do let me know what you think. I would love to hear your feedback and any ideas you guys might have. It would also be great to get an idea if anybody's actually interested in seeing a game like this come out one day, and what you would like as a potential player. Thank you so much for watching. I would appreciate if you liked the video if you enjoyed it, and consider subscribing to see future videos. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!